Welcome back to Market on Close. Now our pleasure to welcome in our next guest. That's Mark McClain, the founder and CEO of SailPoint, stock ticker SAIL. I always love when the company names and the tickers are easy to match together. Mark, thanks so much for joining me here on this Thursday afternoon. First off, congratulations on another strong quarter. But for those who are maybe not totally familiar with your company and yourself, why don't you give us the elevator pitch of what SailPoint does?
Thanks, Alex. Good to join you. Yeah, SailPoint's one of those 20-year-old overnight successes, right? We've been around about 20 years, and an unusual story. Kind of went through a venture backstage, through a PE backstage, an IPO in 2017, a take private with Thoma Bravo, the same firm that had owned us in the pre-IPO stage, and then recently re-IPO'd here in February, a few months ago, and just had earnings yesterday. So that's the fast company story. On the landscape, we're in the security, IT security space, the enterprise security space, particularly in an area called identity security. And to make a fairly complex technology simple, we sort of make sure that all of the right identities, which used to primarily be people like employees and non-employees like contractors and others, now non-human identities like machines and agents, this agentic AI that's out there now, that all those identities have appropriate access to the right information, the right applications and data in an enterprise. And that can get really complex with a large enterprise with literally hundreds or thousands of employees and thousands of applications with lots of detailed entitlements inside things like Salesforce and Workday. So it's a pretty complex problem that we solve really well for large customers.
Yeah, a simple idea, but a complex thing to actually do in reality. But it sounds like the exact place where many companies are going to be investing money and have been investing money, as AI also has increased threats. And we know so much is taking place within the internet, the cloud, etc. Secure data, secure identities. I can't imagine something more paramount to success for business, particularly large enterprises. Talk to us a little bit about the quarter and how those big macro trends are playing out for your company's successes.
Yeah, well, we had a good, strong report yesterday, Alex, as you saw, and we're very pleased with that. I think two things. One is, as you said, we're one of those fun companies that gets to answer the question, is AI good for you or bad for you? And the answer is yes to one of those four questions, right? Like, the truth is, it's going to help those of us that are in the security industry do what we do better and more effectively. It's also going to help the bad actors, the criminal elements, the nation states that sometimes are now in the attack business. It's going to help them be more effective at what they do. One particular added benefit for a company like us, as you said, is that there's a new class of identities, as they're thought of in the enterprise, which are these agents themselves, right? We've seen lots of press from ServiceNow and Salesforce and other very large vendors that they're going to be using more agents and their technology to make customers' lives better, to do things more effectively and more cheaply and more efficiently. That's all great from a business efficiency and effectiveness standpoint, but it tends to have a negative downside for security people who they need to understand, what are these agents, how many of them, where are they, what are they doing, are they doing what you expect them to be doing? There's funny / not so funny anecdotes already out there in the marketplace where I think Mark Benioff famously tweeted a few months ago, "Hey, I love Microsoft Copilot, except I've learned that some of my employees are reading my email," right? Like, sometimes these agents return data or information that they technically weren't supposed to or shouldn't have access to. And so there's this belief that it's going to provide tremendous benefit and advantage to business, and also kind of a dark side risk of either abuse or just misuse. And that could lead to unintended consequences. So that's kind of where we sit in that world of helping companies feel secure about how they can advance with this agentic technology and do so safely.
Mark, SailPoint, obviously, I think the growth drivers are clearly laid out, right? The risks are increasing. The technology is improving on both fronts. This is no longer a nice thing to have. It's an essential thing to have for businesses of all sizes. But talk to us a little bit about maybe some companies, whether it's official partnerships or how you're integrating downstream. You've mentioned Salesforce and Mr. Benioff, obviously. I'm guessing that's a name that or a company that you guys are aligned with.
Yeah, there's a number of different categories, actually, Alex, of alignment for us. One is the leading software vendors, right? The Salesforces, ServiceNows, Workdays, and including some of the legacy players and those in between. SAP is probably between a legacy and an emerging strong player with their cloud offering. Those leading application vendors are a big source of engagement for us because we're often, deeply involved with customers in helping manage their particular implementation of that system and how that affects their security. Another category of strong partnerships for us is the systems integrated partners, the Accenture, PwC, Deloitte. We just are going to be talking about some new things coming with Deloitte here shortly, and we see some interesting opportunities that those partners have in helping customers advance, particularly in these realms of agentic and other emerging technologies, and they're tightly aligned with us in helping deliver that value to customers. And then probably the last category is the rest of the security ecosystem. I think one of the things that we're all learning is that the security attack system today, or the attack vectors from these bad actors, has gotten very sophisticated and quite challenging. And what customers are now demanding is that we all coordinate, those of us in the security realm. So the CrowdStrikes and the Palo Altos and others that are addressing maybe the endpoint part of security or the data or the network. Now we, as kind of a leader in identity security, are being asked to integrate and coordinate that with those players. So there's a lot of really interesting dialogue and partnerships happening out there today.
Hey, Mark, final question for you. You kind of said at the top, kind of joking, 20-year overnight success. And I think what you mean is, obviously, it's been a patient, journey, but things are accelerating rapidly recently. As someone who has a front row seat to all the things that are changing, but also that longer run time as a founder and a leader of a company in the tech world, is there any time in your career that's felt like today does and how rapidly things are changing?
Probably the closest, because of where I sit. I think if you're in the world of mobile, maybe the mobile application, the mobile computing, mobile phone, mobile application world was incredible. That didn't hit us quite as hard that served the core enterprise. I'd probably have to go back to, 25 plus years ago when the internet itself, the World Wide Web, as we called it at the time, was, kind of exploding, say, between the early 90s and the late 90s. And that was tremendous growth and tremendous acceleration of a technology adoption curve. I'm not sure we've ever seen something quite like what's happened with the agentic AI world. And that's just phenomenal, the rate of adoption of these technologies. And I think as we're seeing some of the concerns, Alex, a great metaphor in the security space is, why do race cars have brakes? And the answer is so they can go fast. In other words, if you're going to navigate at high speed around treacherous turns, you need to trust your brakes. Security is sort of the brakes in the world of IT, right? You need to be able to say, hey, something's not good. I need to tap or slam on the brakes. And so having strong security actually gives customers comfort and moving aggressively to adopt new technology. And I think we're at one of those inflections where there's a desire for rapid adoption of these new technologies and the need to go safely and securely forward. That's where we play.
Mark, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations on the successful quarter, the successful journey, and we look forward to seeing what comes next. That's Mark McClain, founder and CEO of SailPoint.